All right, how's it going on a new app screen recorder? Okay, Saturday, November 19th, 7:20 p.m. I'm gonna get straight into this. I'm not gonna bullshit on this one. This is from the UN.org. This is on their own website. You guys can see. There it is right there. UN Academic Impact UN75. I'll go ahead and put that link later up. Okay. And let's go ahead and get started right away. This is UN 75, AI in the Next Century of the United Nations. 2020 marks the 75th anniversary of the founding of the United Nations. To commemorate this milestone, United Nations Academic Impact has asked academics, educators, and leading figures in the fields of science, technology, and innovation to share their views on the multilateral experiment born of war to foster peace. What they see as the role of the organization in the 21st century and beyond. But when they say 21st, that's UN 21. That's what that was. UN 21 was that. So let me back up right there. So, born of war to foster peace. What they see the role organization in the 21st century and beyond, and what the world might look like in 25 years when the UN celebrate its 100th anniversary. UNAI will be running this series throughout the year and invite you to engage in the global conversation using pound UN75 and pound shaping the future. This article was contributed by Viara, I don't know how to explain it, president of the World Leadership Alliance, Club de Madrid, and the sixth president of Latvia. Having left Latvia as a child refugee in the end of World War II, Varia started school in a refugee camp in Germany in 1945, continued it in French Morocco, and then obtained higher education in Canada with a BA and an MA at the University of Toronto and a PhD in experimental psychology 1965 at McGill University in Montreal. Dr. Vika, I'll just go ahead and say Vike, or no, I'll just say, I don't know, uh, Dr. Vieira. Dr. Vieira, I hope I got that right. If I didn't get it right, who gives a shit? Emerged as a prominent spokesperson on politics and science whilst professor of psychology and interdisciplinary scholar at the University of Montreal, 1965 through 1998. She has held leading positions in national and international scientific and scholarly organizations, as well as in a number of Canadian governmental, institutional, academic, interdisciplinary committees where she acquired extensive administrative experience. Since the beginning of her career, she has been actively engaged in community service, focusing on questions of Latvian identity and culture and the political future of the Baltic states. Okay? So with the article starting, it says, by 2045, when the United Nations organizations will be entering the second century of its existence, the world will have changed in many substantial ways. A significant part of these changes will be due to the pervading influence of artificial intelligence, which will have become more powerful and flexible than it is now and more omnipresent in people's lives. The development of AI so far has been going hand in hand with rapid technological advances in electronics, telecommunications, and robotics, with the result of the number of tasks heretofore considered as needed a human operator has been inexorably decreasing. Not only are cities populated by highly paid auto industry workers a thing of the past, but human drivers of cars will also be an anachronism. Sorry, getting thirsty. Anachronism. The area once considered is as the ultimate bastions of the exceptionalism and singularity of human cognitive functioning are melting away like snow under spring sunshine. Machines beat humans at chess. AI algorithms make better medical diagnosis than highly experienced specialists. They solve problems faster by avoiding the fallacies inherent in human reasoning and are at least as good as facial recognition. Not only that, but they can search through staggering masses of big data at lightning speed and have already made former notions of human privacy as outdated as the beliefs that witches are the ones responsible for storms. A major consequence of progress in AI will be continuing increases in wealth generation, unhampered by the limitations imposed on it by human frailty, human rights, ideological principles, political agendas, national laws and regulations, and the power of workers' unions, blah, blah, blah. At the same time, the number of jobs will be decreasing, and the remaining ones will require skill levels impossible to attain by more than half of the population. Since people will have longer life expectancies, the numbers of older people no longer active in the workforce will inevitably keep rising, as will the number of people requiring assisted living. In countries with high birth rates, there will be more young people ready for the job market who will find themselves unable to enter it. The major challenge this will create for leading institutions like the UN will be to establish principles by which aggregate wealth will be redistributed fairly with sufficient regard for human survival and dignity, not just for the profits of the investors and the major shareholders of international corporations. Okay. This will mean entering boldly the fields of ethics and moral principles, continuing to seek consensus on overarching guidelines that can be accepted as transcending differences in culture and religious beliefs or lack thereof. The last few decades have already shown that productivity may keep increasing spectacularly, but the purchasing power of the workers who still have jobs has remained constant. In other words, there has been an increasing concentration of wealth rather than the kind of fair redistribution that is presumably one of the pillars of democracy. Considering that even now only 1% of the world's population holds up to 80 to 90% of the world's wealth concentrated in their hands, one shudders to think about a brave new world in which, thanks to AI, a small handful of individuals would wind up holding more power than nation-states. Supranational organizations like the EU and international organizations like the UN. Add to this the increasing concentration of media in ever fewer hands, and the scene will ripe for an automated world dominated by robots and AI applications, while humans as unemployed worker ants are kept under control by brainwashing and sophisticated manipulation of information. During the first decades of this new millennium, the UN was rightly concerned about the effects of digital divide on economic development worldwide. As we enter the third decade of the 21st century, the digital divide has been shrinking at a truly impressive rate. But the same concerns remain about the accessibility to the benefits of AI for developing as well as for developed countries. In a post-information age in which AI is going to be the major player, the UN needs to maintain a leading role and keep reminding its member nations about achieving not just sustainable development goals for 2030, but to work toward forming a consensus about the global development goals for the new century starting in 2045. Even as we keep in mind the possible negative effects that AI might create or contribute to, we should also remember that AI, just like all advances in science and technology, will undoubtedly produce enormous benefits to humanity. Just as Industrial Revolution relieved people and horses from some burdens of physical labor while replacing them with others, AI is already making life easier, safer, more interesting, and more enjoyable for a growing number of people. As rapid progress has occurred in the speed and memory capacity of computers, as well as the miniaturization of electronic circuits, the increasing sophistication of artificial devices, together with advances in neurophysiology, has allowed for spectacular innovations in man-machine interactive systems that can serve as increasingly powerful and flexible prostheses or extensions of the human body. The enhancement or substitution of sensory motor processes, which which, as demonstrated with artificial limbs capable of voluntary control and finger manipulation, navigation guides for the blind, nerve implants for the deeply deaf, etc., have already allowed for radical improvements in the quality of life for many disadvantaged. Smart, self-driving cars, smart houses, and smart greenhouses are already making inroads. Municipal and national governance is getting more and more automated, while more and people spend more time interacting with their smartphones than with their family, friends, and neighbors. The only thing missing in the AI world is the smart people, who will be smarter all on their own, without aid or support of electronic props or prostheses, who need to be able to quote poetry or remember any facts when they can instantly be summoned by few flips of a finger. But what happens to human faculties when they all but go dormant, especially after certain numbers of generations? There used to be a story told to biology students about a species of salamander that had been discovered in underground caves, completely cut off from access to daylight. Not surprisingly, they were completely white, without the least trace of pigment in their skins. Equally unsurprisingly, they were also blind. The reason for this, however, was not just an atrophy of visual functions, but the total loss of eye development early in the embryonic development. The moral of the story is that the morphological structures as the functions they perform will atrophy without use, that is, without continued feedback from the environment in which they had originally evolved. That is why it is comforting to know that UNESCO has already started to work on a vast program, which will delineate the feature of any of the kind of education for tomorrow that the humans will need in the next century. We have to be careful as a species that we do not lose all disadvantages that millions of years of evolution have left as our heritage, whether through inertia, laziness, overweening pride, and arrogance. And while we are at it, of course, we also have to think of preserving our planet in a shape where it continues to be fit for human habitation. The planet will not care whether its dormant species the planet will not care whether its dormant species are humans, salamanders, or cockroaches. We are the ones who do care, or should. To join the conversation of UN75 and learn more about the United Nations Charter and history, check out these resources. Okay? Do you guys even science, bro?